Welcome to the Redefined Podcast. I am your host, Jared Duran, and a good day to you. Okay, you are probably going to find out that I am the most ridiculous man in the world. Maybe. It's possible. Anyway, I want to welcome you to today's episode. It is a beautiful day outside, hot as per usual, and I am sitting on the couch, as you can see behind me. Today I just want to be honest with you. Being redefined is a journey. It's a process. It's something that you're not going to always get right. I know this because I live this. You know, in a previous podcast, I talked about the 3 phrases: stay on the path, take responsibility, do the hard work. And this is hard work. It's hard work to stay on the path. It's hard work to take responsibility. It is very hard. One of the hardest things about this is you're constantly learning. I don't believe, and you know, I've read a lot of stuff and listened to a lot of stuff with people talking about their journey on this and how they've been trying to do the right thing. They've been trying to do the hard work, and there's just never a point in time where you arrive. You've arrived and you've got it all figured out and you've got it all together. I still struggle. I still struggle with wanting and trying to do the right thing, and failing a lot. Yesterday, for instance, I found myself feeling very broken, feeling very depressed, feeling like I'm just one of those guys that I just never get it right. I figured something out about myself yesterday when I was in this dark spot. And for me, a shame spiral or whatever you want to call it, when I'm like deep in shame, it's not always anger. Like, I'm not always just angry, but I feel like I'm in a deep, dark cave. It's huge, cavernous cave, and it's very dark, and I feel all alone, and that's where I was. And when I was in that spot yesterday, and of course this won't air just right after that happened. You know, I'm recording this in advance. But when I was in that spot, I got to thinking about how I am a super competitive person. Most people don't probably know that. I am super competitive. And I love to win. But I lose a lot, and I fail a lot. And what that has done, this started when I was a teenager. I would also get in trouble from different people for being too competitive. And so what this did was it made me, for a long time, like push that competitiveness down, and I shouldn't be competitive. And then I, several years ago, decided, you know what, it's okay to be competitive. Like, that's okay. Like, that's an area where good things can happen if it's managed well and not treating others poorly because of being competitive. Well, then I realized I lose a lot and I fail a lot. And that has caused me to not want to put myself out there in that way. And I'm not just talking about sports and athletics, not just that, but just life, career, things like that. And that has caused me to feel like I'm a loser, like I'm a failure. And I'm not saying this for you to comment on here and be like, no, you're a winner. I'm not having a pity party. I'm not being self-deprecating. I'm just being vulnerable, being honest, because I think there are times where we think, yesterday, I'll stop speaking in generalities. Yesterday, I felt like I'm not getting anywhere. This isn't working. It's too hard. It's easier to just be mad. It's easier to just push everybody away. It's easier to just get super deep into my dark cave and hide from everybody. That's just easier. And all of this hard work, I mean, it feels like, sometimes it feels like, you know, why do I continue to put myself out there to be hurt? Not that anybody's done anything to me recently. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's like I'm setting myself up to let myself down. That's exactly what it feels like. It feels like I'm setting myself up to let myself down. And it's been a struggle. And that's okay. I mean, that's okay, because nothing good ever happens without struggle. Nothing good ever happens without sacrifice. Nothing good ever happens without taking risks, without putting yourself out there, without doing the hard work. And I really am posting this to encourage somebody to just keep doing the hard work. It may feel like it's not worth it, and in that moment, that might be 100% right. It might not be worth it in that moment, but in the long run, it is worth it. There's another phrase that Jocko Willink has. His phrase that I use is "stay on the path." He has another phrase that is a mantra for him that has become quite popular, and that's "discipline equals freedom." And he even wrote a book called "Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual." And the thinking behind that, the philosophy, the ideology, however you want to phrase it, behind that phrase, "discipline equals freedom," is that if you want to have freedom financially in the long run, then in the short term, you got to do the hard things of working hard, investing, saving money, not spending super frivolous, and doing the hard work, excuse me, of being disciplined. Excuse me. I apologize. I don't know what that was. If you want the freedom in the long run, then you have to do the discipline in the short term. Which means, like I said, working hard, saving, investing, not being super frivolous with your money. Okay? If you want to have good physical health, have freedom in health in the long run, you want to be able to actually play with your grandkids, and you want to actually play with your kids, and have freedom to go on hikes and be strong and flexible and healthy in the long term, then there are things you have to get right now. You'd be disciplined now, do the hard work of being disciplined now so that you have freedom in the long term. And that's hard work. That takes hard work. And the thing about this, the stuff that I've been talking about, being redefined, transformation, those things, yes, it's hard now. It's hard to look somebody in the face and say, listen, I know in the past I used to talk about people and I used to gossip, but I don't do that anymore, and I would appreciate it if you didn't do that with me. Okay? That's hard work. That is very difficult. Because you will lose friends. You will lose people. When you start on this journey, on this path of being redefined, and I refuse to be defined by my past. I refuse to be defined even by my present. I want a good future. You will lose people. You will lose friends. You will lose people, because people don't get it. They want, in some ways, they want you to stay exactly the same way that you've always been. But you can't. That's impossible. They want to define you in, hey, this thing happened 10 years ago, and you're still that person. Well, but I'm not. I'm not that person anymore. I haven't been that person in a long time. I've worked really hard to not be like that anymore. I'm trying to be real, and I'm trying to be vulnerable. I am being real and vulnerable. And sometimes that's really difficult, because you have situations in your life where you want to talk about them, but in some ways you can't talk about them without including other people, and you can't be talking about people. I mean, because their story is their story, and how they saw things was very drastically different than how you saw things. And so you might be talking about the same set of circumstances, but what you perceived and what they perceived is so vastly different that it's easy to hurt people. It's easy to hurt people, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. It's one thing to tell your story, and it's a completely different thing to include people in that story who you have not worked things out with. And sometimes you can't work things out. Sometimes you just can't. And for very, very many different reasons. Sometimes people just aren't in your life anymore, and they will never be in your life ever again. And that can suck, and that can cause grief. That can cause a lot of grief. So I know I'm just kind of wandering through this, because that's what it feels like, and that's what this road feels like to me. That's what this has all felt like. This last weekend is just like I'm just wandering, and I'm trying to feel my way through this. I'm trying to understand this. I'm trying to be better at this. All of this, not just the podcast, not just video, whatever, but everything. Specifically the topics, not just the actions. There are times that it absolutely 100% feels like wandering, and especially in the times that we're living in right now. We're in mid-July, and everybody was like, "Oh, it'll be better by summer," with the coronavirus and COVID, and once the heat hits, everything will be better and it'll go away, and then we'll all be back to normal. And then it got worse. And there's a lot of really, really hard decisions that people are having to make, that my wife and I are having to make, really hard decisions about what the future actually looks like, because there is so much uncertainty right now. And these are just, everybody just kind of feels, I think most people just kind of feel like they're just wandering, trying to feel their way through all this mess. And it's hard, it's rough, it's tough. But I just wanted to share those things from my heart right now. Of just, I know it's hard. I know all this is hard. I'm in it. I'm in it with you. But it's worth it in the long run. It'll probably always be hard. Relationships are hard. All relationships are hard. Very few relationships that I have are just easy. Even the relationship I have with my 5.5-month-old, he's going to be 6 months in just 10 days. There are days where him and I, we click and we get along so good. And then there are days where he's just unhappy, and I don't know why. No idea why. I don't know what's going on in the little man. And he's just fussy and throwing fits and all this stuff, and he's polar opposite of how Kylie was when Kylie was a baby. And so this is a whole brand new relationship for me. I'm learning so much. I'm a stay-at-home dad right now, at least for another little while. And I'm learning so much. I'm listening to a book right now on Audible called The Boy Crisis, and I highly recommend it. I'm almost halfway through it, and I'm learning so much. And it's changing how I interact with him in good ways, because I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm feeling through this. I'm blind. I'm just trying to be the best version of myself that I can be. And that's not always easy. It's not always simple. Most of the time it's very difficult. So that book was written by Warren Farrell, I believe. Boy Crisis. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. If you are a man, you need to read it. If you have a son, you need to read it. It's a very important book. Yeah. Well, I'm at 20 minutes right now, and I think I'm going to call it good. I want to thank you especially if you still listening. I want to thank you for listening. I find that it's easier, not better, easier to talk around stuff than to actually talk through stuff. And this episode is kind of me talking through some stuff. So you can see what that looks like, what that sounds like. I'm going to have some more interviews. There's some people that I am definitely wanting to interview. I just have to learn a little bit more about all of this before I can do that effectively. So, thank you to those of you that do listen to this. My estimated audience on Anchor is 4 people. That is not very many. I've been doing this for 3 months, which is not very long. So I want to thank all 4 of you and whoever else might listen, watch, for doing that. Thank you. And I want to say grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from God our Father, the Lord Jesus Christ. I say that as a impartation, not a greeting. I pray that grace, mercy, and peace be upon you. I really do. And I just thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And if you like this episode, please do me a favor. Like it. Share it with your friends, your family. And help me get the word out about the podcast, because I really do want to help some people. There are people out there that are struggling, and I just want to help them maybe have a little bit better of a life. So, hey, thank you for listening.